Hi, right. So we're going to do a series of anatomy drawings, or labeling of the drawings, I should say, with the different parts. Some of the anatomy systems that you're expected to know for biology is pretty complicated. There's quite a lot of parts. So the digestive system or the alimentary canal is where I'm going to start. I'm going to do one on the heart structure as well, which is complicated. Probably do the reproductive systems, the gas exchange system, maybe go through the kidney structure, including the nephron. So there'll be a whole series of different videos, just making sure you know what the various parts are. So yeah, let's work our way around clockwise, starting in the top right hand corner. So what that small structure is that it's pointing to there, in fact there's actually three pairs of these. That is one of the pairs of salivary glands. So bear with me because the boxes are quite small, so hopefully make sure I'm on my pen, not my rubber. That would be a good start, wouldn't it? So that is the salivary, or salivary if you'd rather. So yeah, I probably won't fit it all in the box or else you wouldn't be able to read it. And yeah, my writing's not that neat, to be fair. Okay, it's not numbered, but the second one down is actually probably something that isn't really on the GCSE courses as much. It used to be. That is a little, almost like a flap. So when you swallow your food, it closes off the trachea. Now, the trachea is just being basically cut off here, so you can't see the rest of it. Because obviously, if you include all the lungs and everything else in the diagram, you can't see the wood for the trees. So that is the epiglottis. Now, I will write it outside of the box just because I'm trying to write nice and big so you can see the spelling. Although, as I say, the epiglottis, probably not that much, not many exam boards seem to want to know about it. The next label down is sometimes commonly known as the food gullet, but we would call it the esophagus. Now, I appreciate I am giving the UK English spelling of these words. If you're in the USA or an area of the world where you use the American spelling, you will find that you will drop some of the vowels. I don't know why the British seem to love vowels. They have more of them than we need to. Even colour, we spell it differently. We add a U in, where obviously the American spelling is just no U. Okay, right. The esophagus leads down from the mouth area to the stomach. Let's see if I can fit it in. We'll give it a go. Yeah, so the stomach is that muscular bag that churns the food that's been swallowed down, mixes it with acid, kills off pathogens. Also, the acidity provides the correct conditions for an enzyme called pepsin to start breaking protein. Okay, the funny looking structure. Some people say it looks like a leaf, other people a seahorse. I'm not really sure about the seahorse, but hey, each to their own. That is the pancreas. So the pancreas actually has two roles. It has an exocrine role where it produces digestive enzymes, which then are passed down a little duct, which you can't really see. The tube would lead down to the start of the small intestine. And the second function is in the endocrine system, where it produces two main hormones called insulin and glucagon, which together regulate your blood glucose. Insulin brings it down. Glucagon brings it back up when it gets too low. All right, I won't get into detail of everything, so otherwise my videos will become way too long. Okay, so we're jumping kind of through when it doesn't really go in the sequence of which way the food would travel, but maybe I'll just go through that at the end. So we're going to jump to the next box down, and that's actually the anus, where egestion occurs, which means to get rid of the feces, the non-digestible bit of our diet that we can't break down and absorb. Just above that, the storage of the feces occurs in the rectum. All right, these are nice words because they fit in the box. Yay! Now, the small intestine, I've just labelled it once here, so I'm going to just add to that because some GCSE exam boards will expect you to know at least the two main divisions. In fact, there's actually three, but I've never seen it at GCSE ask more than the two. So I'm just gonna add on actually this beginning section. So it would actually lead down from the stomach, or it comes away from the stomach. The stomach is closed off with a sphincter, the sphoric sphincter. So that isn't open all the time. It will close and then it will open after several hours of the food being in that muscular bag. So that first part of the small intestine is known as the duodenum. And then The later part of the small intestine, so before it kind of moves to become part of the large intestine, is called the ileum. They do have slightly different functions in that mainly in the duodenum, it's about further digestion of food, because sometimes like with things like fats, they've not even really been digested yet chemically. They only start in the duodenum. There's no digestion of them in the mouth or the stomach. And other foods that have been partly broken down, like carbohydrates and protein, that needs to be completed. And then the ileum's main function is for absorption. So once the food is digested, so it's small and soluble molecules, then it can actually be absorbed into the bloodstream. Okay, let's move on up. So you might know it as the large intestine, the next structure, but it's commonly known for the IGCSE as the colon. But it's called the large intestine as well because it's basically in diameter, it's much wider. The small intestine, although it's longer, is much narrower in terms of the width or the diameter across it. Okay, where are we next? So we have got our gallbladder. So not the same as the bladder that stores urine. The gallbladder, all bladders have a storage function though. So this particular bladder stores bile, which is needed to alkalinize or neutralize the acidic contents of the stomach that go into the duodenum, because the enzymes that work in the duodenum don't particularly like acidic. They don't really have a preference, but they get denatured basically. They don't like or dislike, but they don't work well. It's not optimum for them to be in low pH. So the bile's function is to neutralize, and it also emulsifies fat droplets, which means it breaks them down into tiny little droplets. It's much easier then for lipase, the enzyme that breaks down fats, to actually do its job. It increases the surface area for lipase to work on. So emulsification is a key thing that bile does. Now the liver has got loads of functions in the body, not just involved with digestion. It's hugely involved with detoxification, forming urea from the breakdown of protein or excess amino acids, but its job in the digestive system is really just to make bile. So bile is what's stored by the gallbladder, and as I've just talked about, helps to neutralise the acidity of the stomach contents as they go into the small intestine, but also its job, the salts within the bile help emulsify fats to help with its digestion chemically with the enzyme lipase. And then a really obvious one at the top is, of course, the mouth, which is a really key part of digestion because both chemical and physical digestion take place there. So the teeth start off the physical digestion, they break large food parts into smaller, and then the first bit of chemical digestion begins there with the enzyme amylase, which starts to break down starch to maltose. So I think that is our main structures. The funny little tail, no one really asks about it, but I'll just label it in case you're wondering. It's not a tail as such, but it's like a little dead end sac. That is your appendix. So unfortunately it can get bits and bobs trapped in it, and you can end up with inflammation, which you would know as appendicitis, which can be incredibly painful, and if it ruptures it's pretty serious, so you may have to have it removed. But yeah, that's your digestive system, or your alimentary canal as you may also know it, involved with the ingestion of food, which is taking the food in via the mouth, and drink. Then the digestion, the breakdown of it from large insoluble molecules to smaller soluble molecules, followed by absorption, which is where those small soluble molecules travel into the bloodstream. In the ileum, there's lots of villi, finger-like projections, which help with that process. Again, we love talking about surface area biology, it is key. And then the final part of that is egestion, which is you can't digest everything in your diet. You don't have all the enzymes to do so. In fact, most of the enzymes that break down food are actually not made by us. They're made by bacteria that colonize the inside of our intestines. However, there is quite a lot of stuff we eat that we can't break down, such as fibre. So that passes through and we pass it out as feces. The other word that you might come across is a word called assimilation. And assimilation is what happens when we've absorbed those molecules, we start to then take them into our cells and build them into new molecules or store them away for later use. So assimilation, if you like, is the use of the food that's been both broken down, absorbed. It's how our body then gets to use it in our cells. All right, I hope that's been helpful for you. Take care. Bye.